Okay, so in the previous session or in the previous class, we were discussing about the introduction of hydrology and irrigation engineering. So in this, I'll begin with the syllabus. Before we go to the syllabus, I would like to show you. I hope you all have the syllabus copy with you. Even if you don't have, I'll share that downloaded syllabus copy in your Google Classroom. There you can go and check out all the information related to your syllabus. Okay. So anyway. So before we move into our syllabus, I would like to show you some of the locations of dams, okay? So that you will get a perspective of what exactly the dams reservoirs are meant for. Okay, so to do that, I will share you this. Okay, I hope you can see. There is a little bit problem. Are you facing the same problem that your screen is flashing with something? Is this clear to you? Okay, you can see in this Almaty Dam. Okay, I'm just showing you the like Google Earth image. Okay, this is basically Google Earth. In the Google Earth, I'm trying to show you what could be the condition of a reservoir and a dam. Okay, so just to clarify for you, most of you may have come across this Almaty Dam. Most of you have visited, I guess. So just to show you what else these components are. Okay. Okay. Now see, this is the downstream end. Okay, like this side it is downstream end, and this side it is upstream end. And as you can see in the upstream end, there is a water that has been pounded up. But as you can see in the downstream side, there is a very minimum flow. So what does it basically mean? So it basically means that the water is being stored in the upstream side using this barrier or this dam structure, so that there is no flow in the downstream side. So as you can see, this width is getting narrower. So if it is getting narrower, it is very clear for you that it's a downstream side. Okay, I'll just try to show you another dam that comes in the downstream side of Almaty, which is Naranpo Dam. As you can see here, again, right. This is another. Actually, it was a barrage. Now it has been converted into a dam. Uh, so I'll tell you basically what is the difference between barrage and dam. Barrage is a structure which can be also used for transportation. Okay, it doesn't just merely act as a what do you say, like barrier obstruction to the flow of water. It also acts as a transport flow. But once there was an increase in the demand of water, what they have done is that they have increased the height of this structure and they converted into a barrage into a dam. Okay, so this is actually another dam we have, Naranpo Dam, which is of the downstream side of Almaty Dam. Okay, so just to make you understand the scale of these two, you can see this picture over here. Okay, this part is of Almaty Dam, and this part is of Naranpo Dam. Okay, now let us go back to Almaty Dam. Here, I guess the picture is visible to you. So what basically happens in this side, we will store all the water, and there are different sections within this dam. Okay, uh, I hope you all have come across this Almaty Dam, so that's how I'm explaining it to you. Okay, I guess you all remember this choke from where you can enter into the dam alignment. Okay, this is the alignment of the dam. This is the alignment of the dam. So when you approach towards the dam, there is a earthen bund kind of a structure. So this is what that earthen bund kind of structure. This is the upstream side of the bund, and this is the downstream side of the earthen bund. Okay, so once you reach somewhere here, as you can see, this is the end of our earthen dam. After that, this the concrete structure begins. So this is basically the gravity section. Okay, till here we have earthen section, earthen dam section. So I hope you all remember the earthen dam section from your extension survey lab. So basically, it is made up of earth material itself. There is no concrete that is used. But when you come across over here, here you can see that this portion is of concrete. So that's why it is called gravity dam also. Okay. So this gravity section continues till here, and you can see between this portion to this portion, within this portion. So in this portion, this is called as spillway section. Spillway section means what? Basically, in this section, there is no flow of water. As you can see, this is the ground we have. Okay, sorry for the disturbance. Wait for a second. Okay, I was explaining this spillway section. This actually the gravity dam has two sections. One is spillway section, the other one is non-spillway section. I'll tell you what is non-spillway section. A section of gravity dam where the water cannot flow within the body of the dam. As you can see here, this is your garden. All of you might remember this, and this is the what is that? Like, that fountain show that happens every evening. So this is that part, and you can see this is the entire garden section. So from this, you could be able to understand that in this area, there cannot be any flow of water. The water can never enter into this region. Okay. So that's why this entire section is called as non-spillway section. Okay. Because the water doesn't spill over the downstream side within this section. Okay. But if you come over here, there are series of gates, as you can see. You can count if you want to the number of gates that are available here. So this entire section is called as spillway section. Spillway section means what? Within the body of the gravity dam, there are several openings that are made. So that openings are regulated by several gates. They are mechanical and automated gates are there. So if you have reached to the top of this, you will come across several stations, several points where you could be able to operate the gates also. Okay. So that is this portion. Okay. So in this, what happens is that when you store to the maximum content, when you store maximum amount of water in the upstream side of the dam, so whatever the excess water is there, it is being regulated or it gets disposed of from these openings. Okay. And if at all the downstream end requires some amount of water, because we need to maintain the minimum amount of flow in the downstream side for all the aquatic life and all the ecosystem necessaries. So in that case also, you can dispose of the water that is stored in the upstream side to the downstream side using this gate section itself. So that's what this dam is. So this dam basically consists of an earthen bund, gravity section. A gravity section is again divided into non-spillway and spillway section. So this is what a dam is. This is not a reservoir. Okay. So now, when I had to explain you the reservoir, what I should do is that I have to include not only this structure, but also all these operating systems. Like for example, this is the power station. I hope you all remember this. This is the hydrolytic power station. The water that is stored over here. Maybe there is a fence tower or somewhat, beneath the ground, and that water will be carried through this power station, and the electricity gets generated at this point. I do not know exactly what is the amount or what is the total quantity of energy that gets generated in this power station, but it works. Okay. So here there is a canal system. Okay. So that canal system is somewhere over here, I guess. I exactly don't remember the location of that. Okay. So if you want to understand what is the extent in which the Almaty Dam is irrigating, okay, you can see this patch of lands. Okay. This green patch of lands are representing the farm or agricultural area. So you could be able to see on the downstream side, what is an extent with which the irrigation is taking place, like almost like this much. Okay. This entire area is being irrigated from the left bank of the canal, and I guess in this area, in this region, somewhere till here. Okay, I do not have actual data, so that's why I'm not making up things. So but I understand that this is the area which the Almaty Dam water is being utilized for irrigation. Okay, this is the area where the water is irrigated from the Almaty Dam. So this is what a reservoir is. A reservoir is a complex system where we have a dam section, and using the dam section we store the water, and there are several other structures, hydraulic structures, which will regulate the water that is stored, and it will dispose of the water to all these irrigation lands or farmlands, and it will benefit the agricultural production. Okay. So this is what basics is. I cannot show you the silt gate here, but it is well below the dam section. Okay, silt gate is basically the water gets I'll just show you that. I didn't explain this watershed also. You try to understand the course of this Almaty Dam. The river of Krishna is coming from a far length. Can you see? And somewhere in the Maharashtra it will begin. Somewhere in the Maharashtra, in the Western Ghats, it will begin. Its origin is somewhere here. And the water flows from all the way in this course, and it reaches to Almaty. Okay. So whenever the water comes, it carries lot of soil. Okay, the soil that gets settled at the bottom of the dam somewhere here. Okay, this region is basically gets silted up because we are storing the water. The water is also carrying the suspended solids. So all those suspended solids will get settled in the dam area itself, in this upstream side itself. So what happens is you have to regularly remove all those silts. Okay, you have to keep on removing all those silts. Those are called as silt regulators, or we can also call it as silt excavators. So basically they are provided at the bottom of this. If I can show you the cross section of this dam, then only I can explain you where the silt regulators are there. Silt regulators are well below the dam section. Okay, exactly at the bottom they are provided silt regulators. So what they basically do, they remove off all the silt that gets deposited at the bottom of the reservoir. Okay, so that's okay. So let us come back to hydrology. So I'll just give you the brief description of what are the objectives to be studied in this. So the objective is to understand the hydrology, what is hydrological cycle. We'll try to understand what is rainfall. As I told you in the previous class itself, precipitation is actually the water that reaches to the earth surface, but we focus mainly on rainfall because in our entire Indian geographical boundary, we get only precipitation in the form of rainfall itself. So that's why we usually use precipitation and rainfall as synonymous. Okay, so we'll try to understand how do we measure the precipitation, how does the precipitation occur, and all those things. Okay, then we'll try to analyze the rainfall records. I'll let you understand how the rainfalls are recorded, and I would like to briefly show you that there are some government websites from where you can directly collect the data also. Okay, I'll show you that later. Then we need to understand the runoff calculations, how to calculate the runoff. Then we'll see the evapotranspiration, evaporation. There are two different things. Evaporation is different, evapotranspiration is different. I'll explain you that later. The last one is infiltration. So these are the abstractions that are taking place from the earth surface. Okay, the water gets abstracted. So this is what our objective is. Okay, and if we complete this, almost like our first part gets completed. Okay? First two model gets completed. Okay. Now going back to the same, I hope you all remember from the previous semester that we discussed what is the quantity of water that is available and how much of that is utilizable and non-utilizable. So I hope you all remember that. Okay. So basically the source of water that we have is oceans. Okay. So as you know, this is 97.25% of water is available in ocean, and we know the condition of water that is available in ocean, which is saline in nature, which is having salt, so it cannot be consumable, so it is not utilizable. The next is the whatever the fresh amount of water is there, so it is being categorized over here. As you can see, in ice caps and glacier, it is around 2.05. Again, the water that is available in extreme pools of Earth. I can again go back and show you the what do you say, like Google image to help you understand. So I hope you all remember this globe, right? Okay, this is North Pole, and this is your South Pole. Okay, I hope you all remember. So the most of the water is stored in these poles. Okay, North and South Pole. Other than that, there are a lot of ice. Like for example, your Himalayas is there in this region. There is a lot of fresh water, but it is existing in the form of ice itself. Then there is in Western countries are also there. Like for example, in Europe, again this Sweden, and all these countries, it is filled with ice itself. And then we have Iceland, this part. So there are many regions where basically uh, basically it is available in ice caps and glaciers itself. So you know that in Ladakh Ladakh is also called as a cold desert, right? I hope you all remember that. So you might have also come across this person called as Wangchuk. Somebody, what he that did is that he used to convert the water which is available in glaciers form as drinking water. He found out a mechanism or a kind of technology which will convert the glacier water into pure water, because glaciers are basically the purest form of water. So he tried to convert that. Okay, so most of the people living in the Ladakh, they get the water from the glaciers itself. Okay. Next is groundwater. Groundwater is the water that is getting stored beneath the ground surface, which is around 0.68 percentage. Okay. Now you try to imagine this. Whatever the fresh water we had, 2.05 percentage of that is available in ice caps and glaciers. 0.68 percentage is available in our groundwater, lakes 0.01, soil moisture 0.05, atmosphere 0.01. Now just focus on how much is the quantity of water that is available in streams and rivers. It is equivalent to 0.0001, means a very small quantity of fresh water is available in your streams and rivers. Uh, Now, the thing is about how much of this quantity is utilizable. Like for example, how much of it you can utilize and how much of it can't be utilized. Like for example, you might have come across in the past few weeks, there were several floods that took place. Like for example, in Brahmaputra Basin, like Assam is getting flooded up, Bihar is getting flooded up, some parts of Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Maharashtra, and also Kerala, they all see such kind of flood situation. So whenever there is a flood, you must be able to understand that the water that is carried in flood is completely turbid. It basically doesn't have any scope of getting purified or filtrated. So that's why. So such kind of water gets unutilized, even though it is fresh water, but it gets unutilized because it is a situation of flood where water cannot be utilized. So the water that is available in your streams and rivers also, to a greater extent, they cannot be utilized because of basically pollution and the kind of situation, like for example flood and all the other situations. So this is what the source we have, and this is how we try to understand the scarcity of water that we may face in future. Okay. Next, I have explained the definition of hydrology in the previous class itself. Hydrology is basically to understand the flow and distribution occurrence of water on the earth. Okay. Now, again, the same thing. We will try to understand what are the application of hydrology for the civil engineers. For civil engineers, whenever you want to develop a irrigation scheme, you must be able to you must be able to understand the hydrological part of it. Then whenever you want to construct a dams, hydroelectric power stations, whenever you want to supply water supply projects, in all these cases, understanding hydrology plays a significant and a very primary role. Okay. Now, we'll try to understand what is the scope of hydrology. Means what are the benefits that you get by studying the hydrology. So I'll send you the presentation, but I'll briefly explain you what are the importance. Like for example, you are there is some amount of demand of water to be supplied for domestic regions or agriculture region. So what you basically have to do is you must be able to understand how much is the yield of water. Yield means what? The amount of water that can reach you to that basin. Okay. So if you want to estimate that yield, you must be able to understand few of the things. For example, occurrency. Occurrency means what? Where exactly the uh, uh, water is received. At what are the places where the water is received, and then we must be able to quantify how much is the water that has been received. Okay. Then the next one is frequency. What is how frequently the rainfall is taking place? Like for example, I'll tell you, in the last few weeks you were seeing the rainfall, but now there is no rainfall at all. Right. So this is how. So you basically have to understand the occurrence, quantity, and frequency. By this, you could be able to estimate, or you could be able to predict the water yield that will be received for any given basin. Okay. Next is to understand and acknowledge the importance of groundwater, how the groundwater is recharged, how it is connected to streams and reservoirs. So basically, if you want to understand all those patterns, you must have to study the hydrology. Then I have explained you earlier that flood is the greatest crisis that we are facing in the last few decades. So basically, if you want to estimate the flood, you must be able to understand the hydrology. Right. So hydrological cycle I have explained in the previous semester also, but I'll try to briefly explain you the hydrological cycle. So it is also called as water cycle. Simply you can say it as water cycle because the water, like originates, or you can also say that propagates and travels on the earth in different forms, right? So as you can see in this picture, it is very clear. We have oceans, and we have lakes, we have rivers, and whatever the water that is there in all these forms, it gets evaporated. So once it gets evaporated, as you can see, uh, it gets condensed. It means what? It gets collected, it gets condensed, and it forms clouds. Clouds are basically a heap of uh, what do you say, like moist that has been collected. Okay. So I'll explain you later how this what evaporation takes place, and what are the different ways in which the operation is being accelerated and all of those things. I will discuss that later. So the clouds are formed, as you know. There are different ways in which the clouds get to converted into precipitation. As you can see, the water gets precipitated, and the water flows from the higher region to lower region by the gravity itself. And the water flows across the all the geographical area, and they flow from in the form of small streams. Then they get converted into rivers, and those rivers will again leave the water to the ocean itself. So again, just to give you an example, what I'll do is that I'll again show you the end of our Almaty Dam. Okay, so that you could be able to understand where it originated and where it ended up. Okay, so all of you know that what is the direction in which it basically flows. I hope you all remember that. Okay, so this is north, this is the south, this is east, and this is west. So all our rivers, all our major rivers are west flowing rivers, east flowing rivers. So as you can see, uh, I'll just show you some of the rivers. Okay, can you see this? This is how the streams are getting, all the rivers are getting disposed into the ocean. Okay, so there are many rivers in the north, okay, like Ganga, Brahmaputra, Yamuna, and all those. So most of the rivers flow from west to east, and they dispose of their discharge into the Bay of Bengal itself, right? So what we'll do is we'll try to understand the Kaveri River, and you know that, Kaveri River is somewhere here, and it gets disposed of in Tamil Nadu. Okay, basically, I'm not getting where exactly it's getting disposed. Somewhere here. Okay. I guess this is the end of Kaveri River. It begins somewhere in Talakaveri, in Kodagu district, I guess. Okay, somewhere here it originates, okay, somewhere this part, and it flows across here, and then it gets disposed in the Tamil Nadu region. Okay, now similarly, if we come back to our Almaty Dam, okay, Almaty Dam, I want you to take the tour in which this course will flow. Okay, this is the Almaty Dam, and we know that the Krishna River origins somewhere in the Maharashtra in this region. Okay, Satara or somewhere here in the region, which is Western Ghats region, and the water flows from west to east. Okay, this is the course. Again, this is Naranpo Dam. Okay, like this, it keeps flowing. So it flows from here, and as you can see, it discharges here. Okay, while discharging, it is divided into three heads. Okay, so this is one head which is discharging water. This is the second, and this is the third head. So this is how you can understand the aerial extent of any river basin. Okay? You try to imagine this entire length. It starts somewhere here. It flows into Karnataka, then it flows into Telangana, then the Krishna flows into this Andhra region, and then it gets disposed of into Bay of Bengal. So like this, across the entire earth surface, wherever the precipitation takes place, the water starts flowing from small streams. The water collected in the small streams flows into rivers, and those small rivers will get disposed of into a larger rivers, and those larger rivers finally dispose of the water into the oceans. This is what the cycle is. So now, what is the aim of a civil engineer is to stop the flow of water as much as possible. The ambition of a civil engineer is to pound the water that is flowing as much as possible so that he can utilize the water for the rest of the time. Like for example, you try to understand in for 1 year, only 3 months or 4 months rainfall happens, and it is not evenly distributed also. So whenever there is a rainfall that is happening, there we can directly utilize the rainfall water. But what about the rest of the period when there is no rainfall? So what we basically do is that we want to store the water which has been precipitated during that small duration, and then we'll utilize it in the rest of the time when there is no rainfall. So basically, there are two, I have explained you in the previous semester also, that rainfall is interpreted into two different manners. One manner is that spatial distribution. Spatial distribution means how water is distributed spatially across the entire geographical area. The next one is a temporal variation, means the variation of rainfall that takes place with respect to the time. Okay, and now you all know that in the last few months, 2 or 3 months, there was a maximum amount of rainfall. Now in the next 4 or 5 months, the same thing I'll discuss here, but in length. Okay. In the previous semester, we just discussed the various components, but we didn't understand how those components influence our hydrology. Okay. We were only focusing about the management of water resources that are available. Okay. So here, as you can see, these are the basic components of our hydrological cycle. But if you want to understand the detail of that, you can find it over here. In this picture, it is clearly represented all the different components, how they process, how they are perceived. Okay. Now, basically, for our understanding, these are the components. First component is precipitation, basically the water that reaches to the earth surface. Then the evaporation, the water that gets exited from the earth surface. Next is transpiration. Transpiration is the amount of, you can see somewhere here, the transpiration is there. This is evapotranspiration. We all know that evaporation. Evaporation means what? The water gets evaporated from the surface, right? Like whatever the water is here, because of the increase in the temperature, because of the heat energy, the water gets converted into gaseous form. Because it gets gaseous form, its density gets reduced. After that, it gets lifted up. Basically, the warm air gets lifted up, and cold air gets like increases its density. Because of that, it reaches again back to the earth surface. So we all know that. So evaporation is basically the water that is getting evaporated on the water surfaces. Transpiration is basically the water that is taken up by the trees. Okay, the water that is extracted from the earth surface by the trees, and for the survival of the trees, what they do is that they transpire, means they use that water, and again the water gets back to the atmosphere from the trees. So that is called as transpiration. I hope you all know that, right? As we say, it is respiration. Respiration is what we take the oxygen and we leave the carbon dioxide. In this transpiration, what happens? It gets the reverse. The trees takes the uh, moisture or water from the root zone, and then it leaves, or it releases the moisture in the atmosphere. This is what transpiration is, right? So transpiration is the uh, moisture that is released from the trees into the atmosphere. Now, what is evapotranspiration? As we know that the soil has got some amount of moisture, because whenever the precipitation takes place, the water gets stored in the soil itself. So the water that is stored within the pores of the soil gets evaporated. So that is called as evapotranspiration. So evapotranspiration is the combination of water that gets evaporated from the soil and from the trees. So they are considered one single head. So evaporation and evapotranspiration. Okay. So after that, we have infiltration. Infiltration means what? The water that gets penetrated beneath the ground surface. Okay, so whatever the water that is flowing on the free surface, it gets penetrated into the soil. So that's why we call it as infiltration. Next is percolation. If the water goes beyond the water zone, there is a layer of, there are different layers of soil, right? So there is a part called as ODA zone. ODA zone is the zone where the soil that is available will be beneficiary for the growth of the plant. Okay, so that zone we call it as ODA zone. So if the water goes beyond, if it infiltrates beyond that ODA zone, we call it as percolation. Okay. Next we have runoff. Runoff is basically divided into two heads. One is overland flow, the other one is surface runoff. As you can see, overland flow, the portion of runoff that travels over the surface of the ground and to reach a stream channel. Okay, I will show you in this picture. It is very much clear. Okay, now see here, this is the infiltration that is taking place. This is the flow that is taking beneath the ground surface. There is definitely the flow of water that takes place over the surface. Okay, that is what we call it as overland flow, or we can call it as surface flow also. Then there is subsurface flow. Okay, or we can call it as base flow also. As you can see this, the water is flowing beneath the earth surface also, and the water may come out in the terms of spring, or it may come out as a seepage. Okay, as you can see, it is coming out as a spring, or it may come out as a seepage, or it may contribute to the lakes, or it may get disposed of into rivers also. And finally, the water that is flowing beneath the surface can also get disposed of into the ocean. Okay, so that is what our subsurface flow, or we can call it as base flow. So these are the different components of hydrological cycle. Anyway, I guess I have consumed enough amount of time. Tomorrow onwards, we'll continue with precipitation. Okay, so we'll end this meet here. We'll meet tomorrow.